Hi, and welcome to the SuccessPaTh show, where Christian business owners share their tips for success to show you how to succeed more effectively with your kingdom goals. And I'm really excited about our guest today. He's a master speaker, and I'll tell you in a little bit how I got introduced to him. But Raymond Wright is a leader in the social retail space and the founder of Wright Way Coaching, where he operates as a high-performance transformational coach and speaker. Raymond's foundation is built on kingdom living, leadership development, and transformational growth, and his mission is to leave an internal legacy that lives on through people's works. Raymond's superpower is to inspire people to reawaken their own greatness, find their inner voice of that hidden hero, and help turn their tragedy into triumph so that they can live a life they've always desired. Every night, Raymond asks himself, did I love? Did I serve? And how did I grow? Welcome, Raymond.
That sounded so good. I need to step my game up.
Yes, and Raymond, we met through a mutual friend, and I just loved your energy. I love what you brought to the audience and practical tips about how to get organic traffic. And I know that is a major struggle for entrepreneurs right now. It's like a mystery. And they've been spending all this money on ads, but there's a way to get organic traffic, and you found that way. But before we get into talking about getting organic traffic through social media, can you just touch on a little bit of your story? How did you come to be Raymond Wright, the transformational coach and speaker?
Absolutely. And first, I just want to thank you for having me on. I absolutely enjoy, especially anything that has to do with really building the kingdom for entrepreneurs, because we need more kingdom entrepreneurs in the space. So thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Raymond Wright. I always wasn't Raymond Wright, the transformational coach, right? I was Raymond Wright, the drunk, Raymond Wright, the alcoholic, Raymond Wright, the delinquent Raymond Wright. So my story is it's probably like several other people. I come from a broken home, suicide, addiction, abandonment. At 10 years old, I was abandoned by my mom. My father had already passed away in a freak accident, and I kind of followed that path. And at 12 years old, I was drinking and drugging. And for about 8 or 9 years, until I was about 21 and a half years old, that's the path that I chose. I chose that destruction, that dysfunction, that drugs, the alcohol, in and out of juvenile detention centers. And at 21 and a half, I found myself facing a lot of time in prison. And in that moment, you don't see God working in your life, especially when you're far from God. But what happened is God's grace shone upon me. And I got sober at about 21 and a half. And I lived sober for about 13 years. But I was very depressed, and I became suicidal. And I got into a car accident to a gentleman. And the gentleman introduced me into network marketing. And there I found my mentor. And there I found my relationship with Christ. And there I started to change my life in the personal development and leadership field. And it all came through the transformation and that growth process. And that lands me where I'm at today, which really is teaching other people how to transform their lives through personal development, leadership, and transformation.
I love that. I love that you found your savior at a network marketing event. God is everywhere. So it's awesome that God used that means to be able to reach you and transform you. So now he's doing amazing things through you, Raymond. So can we get a little bit into social media? Why doesn't it work for some people? Why has it worked for you? You were saying that you get a lot of leads from it, especially stories. Can you just reveal the secrets of social media for us?
Absolutely. So it's, I'll say the first reason why people don't make it, there's two reasons. One, inconsistency. You're not consistent because you don't see immediate results. That's that you got to have delayed gratification, right? You got to understand that you're planting seeds so you can sow later, right? So nothing happens immediately. The second thing is comparison, right? And I think we've all probably fallen for that. When we're on social media, what are we, right? Absolutely. Me, last year was big comparison for me. And it was some of the greatest things God has ever done in my life. But instead of really being grateful, I fell into comparison because I was comparing myself to people who've been doing it for years and years, right? So when you compare yourself on social media, you're typically following, right, Violet? You're following people that you admire, that you respect, right? And they have the results that you're seeking. And in the process of doing that, you start to see all these other people and you see like, wow, like they're really doing it. Why am I not? And then you start to try to imitate what other people are doing that's far from your niche, or you start to compare yourself and it leaves you stuck and stagnant, right? So the greatest thing that I did is be you, like be you, right? You hear this, be authentic. Well, what does that really mean? Who are you to the core, right? Not your name, right? Not your title. Who are you to a core? You know, what is your story? Your story and your growth and what you're trying to accomplish is you. And you'll find the people that you need to by sharing it every day, right? Day after day after day after day. You need your downtime, but the consistency will help you overcome the comparison, because the longer you stay consistent, the greater your results are going to become over time. But you got to be in it for the long haul. Social media is long haul.
So Raymond, what do you mean by consistency? Consistency. Can you get a little practical? Like, do you want people to be posting 3 times a day, or what do you mean by that?
So consistency really is based on you got to have a calendar. I don't have mine in front of me. It's in my backpack, but you got to have a schedule, right? You got to be so disciplined with social media, right? Become a content creator, not a content consumer, right? So consistency doesn't mean I'm consuming. Consistency means I'm creating and I'm gone, right? So have a timeline, whether it's 8, 12, whatever that is. So this is my consistency. And I'll tell you what I do, what I try to do on a regular basis, right? So 8 o'clock every morning, I'm posting on my timeline, right? I'm posting something on my brand. What's my brand? Kingdom Living, Leadership Development, Transformational Growth. It's got to be pertained to one of those, right? That's my timeline. In my stories, I'm constantly posting stories. What am I doing during the day? Family time, dinner time, exercise time, quotes, inspirational. Don't go outside of your lane. If Violet shares something that inspires you, share it on your stories. Now you're promoting her, right? Which is what we want to do, right? This is how collaboration happens. And now she might share your story to hers, right? So there's that traffic that you're getting without advertising. You're sharing on each other's platforms. I always say 8 o'clock, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, and then maybe 8 o'clock at night. The one at 8 o'clock at night is usually, I post on my timeline, usually just a quote. The one at 2 o'clock might be something to do with like a coaching or something like that. But in your stories, stay so consistent in your stories. I say stories should be anywhere what you can get up to the point, but always start with 3 to 5 stories at that 8 o'clock, right? Because what you're doing is you're getting the algorithm warmed up, right? You're getting people to come to your stories rather than your timeline. Your timeline is your brand. Your stories is everything. And then when you do 3 to 5 stories, on the last story, you should have some type of call to action. And what I mean by call to action, people think call to actions is always about income producing activities. Sometimes a call to action is what are you eating for dinner tonight? You want people to engage. It's all about engagement. It's about building relationships. So you got to have a calendar. You got to be very, very disciplined with your calendar on how you're going to attack social media. Timeline, you can post once a day. I usually do 2 to 3 times a day, but in my stories, every couple hours, I'm adding a couple stories, right? And I think you're allowed up to like 40 little bubbles in your stories. Blast them all out, right?
What's a bubble?
Right? Huh?
What's a bubble?
So if you were to go in the stories, you know how when you're skipping through stories, it's got the little dash marks at the top of your stories.
Okay.
Those, I call them bubbles, right?
Okay.
So but you're allowed up to like 40 or 50 of those, right? So if you ever know, if you post on stories, you'll get the one line that goes across. And if you have one story, it's the whole way across. The more stories you do, the smaller the bubbles get, right? But it's just, it's 15-second clips. Boom, 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 right? And that allows people to really attention span. They can get through it. There's a call to action. You know, a lot of people will post something, especially if it's something that inspires them, or say, if you have a beautiful picture, you know, of a mountains or a vacation, then that call to action can be like, where's your dream vacation? And people will be like, oh, I want to go to Hawaii. Oh, I want to go to Ireland. Oh, I want to go to this. And then what happens, this is the critical part on stories. Once they engage with your stories, it goes immediately to Messenger. And now you have open communications to direct messaging. So if Violet was to say, my dream vacation is Santorini, Greece, and then I'll comment, that is a beautiful place. How long have you wanted to go there? Now we have an open line of conversation, right? It doesn't have to go directly to a sale. We've built a relationship. We've built rapport now. Now we have open lines of communication, right? So now if I see a story of yours 2 days later, I'm going to comment on you and I'm going to bring you back into conversation. And the longer that goes, then now we can have a pivot, right? Depending on, like, I'm in the network marketing field, we can have a pivot, right? Do you have a need? Do I have a solution for your need? And how can we work together? Because it's a win-win situation, right? How can I serve you? How can you serve me? Maybe we just get a collaboration like we're doing right now. Maybe there's a product sale. Maybe there's a coaching sale. And that's why consistency is so key. If people don't see you every day, people don't take you serious. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, for sure. And I love that you said that a call to action, because most people say call to action is a sale, but I love that you say it's an engagement. Absolutely. Starting that communication so that you can build that relationship and you can grow the know, like, and trust first, rather than just turning on them and selling them or spamming them. And
exactly.
Yeah. So Raymond,
nobody wants to be sold, right? People want to buy. People want to, you know, the one thing about network marketing is some companies are really good. Some companies are really bad. And they tell you basically, you know, how to spam people. The worst thing you can do is spam people, right? You don't want to bother people. You want to serve people, right? And sometimes serving them is not selling to them. Sometimes serving to them is giving them a solution that might turn into a sale 3 months from now, 6 months from now. You don't get to decide that. What you got to do is let them know that you have a solution to the problem they have. And it's the thing. Remember, it's the know, like, and trust. Do they know who you are? There's your consistency. If you're not consistent on social media, then they don't know you, right? If you're inconsistent, you know what they know? You're inconsistent, right? Then once you're consistent and they know you and they like your information, not everybody's going to like you. Don't make it, your job isn't to make everybody like you. It's to find those that you're supposed to work with. So once they like your information, they like you know what you put out. They like your post, they like your quotes, they like your they like your intentionality, they like your discipline. Now you got to know and like. Once you know and like them, the engagement is to build trust. It's to build rapport. Once now they know you, they like you, they trust you, the chances of them purchasing from you or working with you or collaborating with you, it increases like 70%. So always know that consistency leads to engagement, that leads to relationships, that leads to possibilities. And you know, not everybody's going to like you. So don't try to make everybody like you.
Yes, for sure. I love that you said that. Don't try to have everybody like you, but find those certain people, like you were talking about earlier, that niche that you have the solution for specifically.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Raymond, how can I make sure that people see my stories? Because sometimes, I just see one person the whole time. How do I make sure that I'm in that cluster of the main stories when people open their social media? I'm right there.
Absolutely. What a great question. That's a great question. So this is where the work comes in. So how I get the algorithm working, it isn't basically through me posting my stories. So the way I get started every day is I go on 5 people's stories, 5 different, and this isn't the same people every time. You got to avoid, right? We get analysis paralysis, right? In the network marketing industry, what happens is we mentally think we're doing work by trying to conversate with the same people, right? We need to expand. It's all about expansion. You build relationships through people. I have not met my greatest person yet. I know that. I've got phenomenal people in my life, but when it comes to team building and income producing activities, I haven't met the best one yet. They're out there somewhere. But if I'm not searching for them, then when you wait, you die. Right? You can't just wait for things to happen. You got to make things happen. So what I do, Violet, is I go on stories. And typically when you go to stories, probably ain't gonna be able to see, but typically when you go to stories, your first 5 stories are people you typically engage with. Scroll through it and go to the middle or to the end. Push on their stories, comment on 3 of their stories, and then do that with 5 people. Comment on the first 3 stories of 5 people. That's 15 engagements I just did right in the direct messages, right? Some will respond back, some won't. So what? You don't worry about who doesn't, right? So now I got 15 engagements that I've already done. That takes you about 10 minutes. Now I add my stories. So now what happens is they're at the end of your stories. Now, when you engage, because you engaged with them on their stories, now your stories will show up in their feed. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. I had no idea. So I'm so glad that you're here to demystify all this stuff.
and it's just, and how I learned this is watching people who were way better than me. You know what I mean? And it's there's a young lady in our company, and she doesn't do any live videos. She doesn't do any, you know what she does? She builds everything through stories.
Wow.
Right? And in your stories, you can do favorites where it's like, you can click on it and you can have like family, you can have leadership, you can have vacations, you could have good foods. And when people click on that, it's got all your favorite stories under that one label.
Oh, wow.
Right? So here, let me see if I can pull it up real quick, just so I can kind of give a visual. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So if I was to go, Instagram's really good at it.
Yeah, Instagram, you have that when you go to the profile, but I had no idea Facebook, you could do that as well.
Right. So I'll go to this gentleman's, right? So if you could see it, can you see it?
Yes, I think so.
So down here is the story feed. You could put everything you want to, all your favorites on here, right? You see how you can do as many as you want? And it's like family man, Costa Rica, entrepreneur, DC, Bahamas, orphanage, Rose Bowl, right? So when we click on that, when you click on it, it comes up and it's all someone's favorite feeds, right?
So is that Instagram or?
Instagram. You could do the same thing on Facebook, right? But there are people, they don't want to go through your timeline. What they want to do is they want to click on one of those things and see see if you have anything in common, see if there's anything you have to offer them, see if there's any tips or ideas that they can implement into their lives. And when you have that, so if I have somebody and I have vacations, right? And I'm trying to see places to go, and I know you, I like you, I trust you. I click on that vacations and I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's been to all kinds of different places, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll have a call to action after so many. If you're interested in great places to go, reach out to me.
Wow, right? That is gold. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Absolutely.
So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that people know about the freebie and also where to reach you. So have you decided on what the freebie is, or are you going to surprise us?
So I think the freebie that I've been working on for a while, it's a blueprint for your success, right? It's a video that I did with a workbook. And it's really, the reason I say blueprint, and it's about goal setting, but really, if you don't have a foundation, for the home, right? You don't build buildings and houses without blueprints,
Right.
right? So the blueprint sits on the foundation. So I always tell people, there's a lot of things that you're good at, but there's a lot of bad things that we need to get rid of, right? So we need to break up that foundation that you've lived on most of your life, and we need to pour a new foundation with some of the things that you're good at. Then we need to set a blueprint for your life, right? That's your why, that's your dream, that's your goal, that's your service to the world. How are you going to serve? And then once we set your blueprint and we establish what it's going to look like as a finished product, now we can start to add the goals to get to those bigger dreams and those bigger things. So, and I do that in a video format. And there's a workbook that goes with the video as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Raymond. And do you go by Ray or Raymond?
I think sometimes I never say, because I don't ever want to limit. I just want people to call me.
There you go. Good answer. And so where can they reach you? Where do you hang out the most on social media?
So Facebook is my main platform. I do post to Instagram every day too. So you can find me at Raymond Wright on Facebook. Any questions, anything, reach out to me. I'm always answering my DMs. It might take me a day or two to get back to them because they get filled up sometimes, but I always do my best to get to them as soon as possible. And then Instagram, it's Ray Wright Senior. Don't ask me why I did that name. I'm an old folk when it comes to social media, and I don't know why I did it, but it's Ray Wright Senior on Instagram. And then I do have a TikTok, but I would say Facebook and Instagram are going to be the best ways to get in. Either way, DM me. Always DM me, and then that way, I can get back to you and we can open up that lines of communication.
Awesome. So we'll put the link for the freebie in the description box, and also your social media links. That way they can reach you. Make sure to DM Raymond any questions you have. Thank you for being so available, Raymond.
Absolutely. And thank you.
One last question that I asked my guests is, there's people out there that, I have a story of surviving suicide as a Christian. So I know, the things that people can go through and how hopeless things can get. So there's people out in business that are trying to figure all this out. They've tried social media, they've tried all these different programs. They may be in debt, depressed, about to throw in the towel. What's some encouragement that you can share with them right now?
Man, that's really deep, because I've been in all those positions in my life. I would like to say, the greatest advice I can give anybody is, Winston Churchill says, never, 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 never quit. If you hold on for that one more moment, your breakthrough could come. But you really got to assess yourself. You got to assess where you're at in life, right? Our feelings and our thoughts come from something that's triggered us, and it's usually a trauma response, right? Me, as getting ready to celebrate 21 years in sobriety, I was 13 years sober and I wanted to commit suicide, right? And the reason is I removed the external thing, which was the addiction, but I never changed the internal thing, which was the trauma, the abandonment, the abuse, right? The fact that I lost my father, these things, the fact that I was never told I love you. So when you're going through something, it's your body and your internal parts that are trying to tell you something is not right, something is wrong. You need to look inside yourself. You need to understand that life is not meant to be easy, right? Especially for believers, especially for those that walk in faith. You share it yourself. I'd love to hear your story sometime, because sometimes we feel so alone. I'm going to tell you, learn to be alone. Learn to be by yourself. Learn to endure, because the world is going to throw everything at you. The higher up the mountain you go, the more attack and the more criticism that you're going to get, because people are not going to like the fact that you're climbing out from where you used to be. People want you to do good, but a lot don't want you to do better than them. So persistence, never quitting, and being able to look at yourself in the middle of the chaos, to be by yourself. And those moments will prepare you for the worst outcomes. I know that was a long answer.
No, yeah. Somebody out there I know had to hear that. So I appreciate you speaking from your heart. And I know that, a lot of you've gone through it. So, and you've gotten out of it. So I appreciate you,
Absolutely.
your encouragement.
There's a saying, and it said, and I think it was Eric Thomas, for those that know Eric Thomas. And he says, so what? You're in pain. Get a reward from it. Use your pain to push you into your purpose so that God can prevail your promise.
E.T., one of the famous people out
Absolutely.
there now.
I love
Thank
him.
you so much, Raymond. I really appreciate your time and all the gold nuggets. I have like so many notes on here. And if you missed anything, go back, rewatch this as many times as you have to, because you can really succeed in doing stories, getting organic traffic. So thank you, Raymond.
Absolutely.
And to the viewer, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and share it so that we can bring you more content like this in the future. We love you. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much.